What's up, Guardians? I hope you all had a great time playing contest mode over the last weekend. Been a little bit, but we've been grinding, playing. Didn't get to finish, unfortunately, but had a good time while it lasted. I hope you all also enjoyed your time with it, or at least got to play through the raid after contest was over and went through on normal and got to go through the experience. As of today, it has been a little over a week since the expansion launched, so I want to go ahead and go over all the weapons that I think are worth your time to go ahead, track down, maybe farm some rolls of if you have the time. This is going to include everything from the raid, the portal, Pinnacle Ops, the destination, Arms Week. There's even a little bit of trials in here. So it's going to be a little bit of everything. I'll try and talk about where they come from. If you need to, on the right side here, it should tell you where they come from. But just in case, I'm going to do my best to try and elaborate on where they are coming from. Now, obviously, we haven't had time to test every roll or get everything. Not everything's even out yet. So some of these we don't have access to. But I am going to just, work with my best knowledge, and most of these perks are either pretty simple or things that we've had for a long time. There's not going to be too many surprises there as to how things work. They're not in any particular order apart from the order that I saw them in the API. But I think the first one we're starting with is honestly one of the best weapons from the expansion. Very good DPS, not great total damage, but it feels really good for a special weapon. Does the job of major killing or just adding in some extra DPS at the end of a boss stage pretty well. And that's, of course, Mint Retrograde, our first ever rocket pulse rifle. This thing does pretty decent damage. I don't know if you've seen any damage to this, but it hits faster and harder than something like a rocket sidearm, or even as well as like some sniper rifles. It does not have the total reserves to compete with sniper rifles, though. So in a very short time period, you'll put out a lot more damage than a sniper rifle, but you're going to have way less ammo and way less total damage to carry you through something like a GM. That said, if you need something to die, you need to die very quickly, you don't want to rely on headshots, this thing puts in numbers. It's really, really good. Now, there's a couple rolls that I haven't really narrowed down on what the best would be, and it does have a bit of a dual purpose, right? If you're running a good high weapon stat setup, you can run this thing and run it with pretty much infinite ammo as long as you're able to spawn green for yourself and have a scavenger equipped. But for most use cases, I'm going to say it's either for clearing out really large groups of adds or majors, and then sometimes contributing to boss damage. Maybe we'll talk some champion stuff in here, right? So on the left column, I mostly am considering taking rewind rounds, which on this thing, since it's a 3-round burst and each shot hits 3 times, will generally give you back your entire magazine and then let you pretty much fire the entire reserves without reloading. Obviously great for your DPS and maintaining that uptime. I think the only other option here that has any merit at all is Hatchling, just because it will give you some extra damage whenever you kill a couple red bars, which with this thing, you can kill a red bar with every single shot from your burst, or if you get a headshot kill, which this thing can technically get because it can't hit headshots, but it's a little weird with how the explosions work. In the right column, I think you have a lot of options, like bait and switch is okay. I don't think it's the best pick because I don't like using bait and switch on my special for the most part. But I've gone for things that you'll either be able to keep up more of the time or are just great for slaying out. And with that, we have chain reaction for clearing out adds. We have one for all because this thing has AoE on it, so pretty good at proccing one for all, and a 35% buff never hurts. My pick is honing here most likely, just because you're going to have at least 2 elements, so you'll always have at least 10% bonus damage, and if you have anything more than that, you'll be able to go even higher. It is the best in terms of if you're going to take this into a boss phase, but it's consistent everywhere else, which is why I've kind of taken it. That said, Master of Arms is good in any content where you're able to get kills consistently with this weapon or another weapon. So it can work pretty well in all kinds of setups, even things with like really good exotics. For example, if you're taking 3rd iteration, Master of Arms is not a bad pick if you're getting kills with that and then switching over to the rocket. It'll give you just a little bit to work with, but not be a showstopper. If you want to get your hands on one of these rocket pulses, you're going to have to play Pinnacle Ops. So Encore is disabled right now, but any of those missions in the Pinnacle Ops playlist has a chance to drop this, and keep an eye out for whenever it's like focused in your gear, because that'll get you really good chances of getting to farm this. Next up is another Pinnacle Ops weapon. This one is the Theodolite. This is a arc mountaintop. It's one of those micro missile frames. So it has the unique case of being the first one in the energy slot, so it's a pretty good pickup if you need something for movement or just to emulate what mountaintop does, but in the special slot. This is obviously your pick. I think it has a few standout options here, namely being Blast Distributor and Volt Shot. Blast Distributor is giving you a grenade stat bonus for every hit with an explosive weapon. I believe it stacks up to 3 times. It's about plus 15 for the stat every time you get a stack. This can get you a bunch of extra damage or cooldown speed on your grenade, because if you're, shooting this off multiple times, it's going to be very, very easy to stack this up with a special weapon. Volt Shot also sounds pretty good on a weapon that has one shot in the mag. You're one-shotting most adds, and then when you want to apply this to another thing, you can just reload and send it. You don't have to do anything different, don't have to reload more often. So those, I think, will pair very nicely together. Reconstruction's a nice pick if you want something that's less commitment, less upkeep. Reaper's Tithe, I think, sounds interesting. Getting multi-kills with a micro missile sounds a little bit rough, because micro missile excels more at impact damage than it does AoE damage. However, in the case where you're in a situation where you are able to kill a lot of adds, this thing apparently does a decent damage buff, and it does last longer on kills without having to get multi-kills. So you only need like one multi-kill to go ahead and stack up the buff. And obviously Frenzy's just a good pick here. Frenzy gives you the extra reload speed, extra damage. The thing is, Rolling Storm's a pick here you could go for. I just feel like going for Rolling Storm on a one-shot special ammo weapon feels bad. Rolling Storm's okay on primaries, I think, or things that are specialized in ad clear. Whereas I think Volt Shot's going to give you better bang for your buck for the slot for a grenade launcher. Rageous Fortune is another Pinnacle Ops weapon. This is a reprise. It is a solar heavy GL. And it's the first one we've had since like Marcelon C, which dropped with explosive light and impulse amplifier. So this is long time coming. This is one of the things that's going to be a permanent place in your vault pretty much, because you need a solar GL in case it's solar surge, or you need a GL and you got a surge match. So this is a very big pickup. You're going for MVS Arsenal bait and switch. That is the de facto role. I think there is a case for you to keep a role with Blast Distributor or maybe Incandescent if you need an ad clear or just bonus to your grenade builds. For example, if you're playing like Sunbracers, a Blast Distributor role might be pretty good. Incandescent is rolling in the left column, which is pretty nice because that means you can try to combine Incandescent with something like Chain Reaction if you really want an ad clear role. But I think realistically, you're going to want bait and switch in this thing. Maybe Explosive Light if you're in a GM or something like that, where you're picking up a lot of orbs. And then Envious Arsenal. That's your go-to. You just need a good damage option that's solar. Now, a Gape is a 2-round burst hand cannon from the Kepler Destination. It is our first solar one, and it comes with pretty much everything it needs. It's got Heal Clip and Incandescent, which I think is the best pick here. Burning Ambition is decent, but it feels weird on primaries because you spend so much of the mag trying to apply the Scorch, and by the time you get the Scorch off, they're usually dead. And Scorch by itself doesn't contribute very much. It's good for proccing things like Ember of Searing, but that's about it. Whereas Incandescent can help you clear ads, it will bring your TTK down, and it can cause an ignition very reliably, as long as you have multiple enemies next to each other. Burning Ambition is good for a single target damage, which is not really what you're using a primary for. This might have a better place on future heavies and specials that we see, but it really depends on how many shots it takes to proc. I think it's a decent pick if you're really relying on Scorch for your build. Otherwise, I think Incandescent in almost 90% of content is going to be your better pick. And Firefly here is just kind of a nice splash perk, reload perk. Heal Clip, I think, just is the go-to in the left column. Erase Neutralizer is a Trials hand cannon that we're going to have access to soon. It is the Kinetic shotgun hand cannon. There is a solar one in here as well, but we're only getting 2 right now. One is Kinetic. You're going to want one of these because it gets 1-2 punch as a primary weapon. Pretty disgusting. I think you're going to want to take these with proximity power, which when you get kills while enemies surround you, you get 15 to 16 bonus melee stat per kill up to 3 stacks, which is nothing to scoff at. If you're doing a melee build, you want the extra damage, but you can't commit. This is a great way to make up for that and 1-2 punch, so you can combine those. It does get Trench Barrel as an option as well, which I think would be pretty fun. And Cascade Point I select here because I think this is kind of funny. Cascade Point on a primary is not something that we usually do, but on a shotgun hand cannon, it could be pretty fun. In the left column, your other options are probably Threat Remover. You'll actually probably get use out of this with a primary more than a special. Threat Detector, when you're surrounded, you get faster reload, is what you want. Grave Robber, if you're doing a melee build, will refill this with a melee kill. So you can do that with 1-2 punch, and you should never have to reload the thing. And if you really want to do damage with this, Vorpal Trench Barrel seems like a pretty good combination for like damage on a major. If you're using Lucky Pants, this will probably work with that very, very well. So keep an eye out for that. Venetria Farah is the solar equivalent of the shotgun hand cannon. This should be dropping from Arms Week soon. once we have a focus for arms because it should be hand cannons. I believe this is where that's going to come from. Once again, I think the standout thing here is 1-2 punch. As a backup, this has incandescent and surrounded on it, so those are also good picks. Or of course, swashbuckler if you're doing a melee build, we don't need the damage. And it still has start remover and threat detector and proximity power, which I think are still your picks. And now slide shot, since it will buff slide melees, you can shoot then slide melee without having to break the combo by shooting while you're sliding. And it should just reload the shot that you fired for your slide melees. So for melee builds, these are going to be very interesting hand cannons, and I think they're going to very much shake up the meta for melee builds. Now another one for the arms week is going to be the Trachnus Rapid Fire Slug Stasis Shotgun. This is a unique slug frame that has a faster rate of fire. Most slugs, I believe, are about 70 RPM. This is a 90 as its rapid fire slug. Pretty cool, probably good DPS. We're going to have to wait and see, but it doesn't have much less impact stat, so I think it's going to be pretty comparable. It might just be the better option for DPS. And the interesting thing here is it does get choke clip. First shotgun with choke clip. The snipers with choke clip are pretty good. So I think this will probably be a great pick. It'll most likely freeze in 2 hits. So it will be pretty good for any close range stasis build you're trying to do. Or if you just need slow to proc something, this will be pretty awesome. You do have precision instrument here if you want to go for a total boss damage. And then binary orbit and swash I think are just kind of fine. Again, you have proximity power on the left side if you want to go for a melee build with this. But I think lead from gold is just your best pick to give you more ammo, so you're out here getting more chill clip procs. Unwavering Duty is a solar 450 machine gun. It is the one that we've pretty much had going on. There hasn't been another 450 in a while, and it's from Trials. And the new reprise looks like it's going to be pretty good. It gets killing tally now. It gets incandescent in the left column, so you can get a damage perk and in cannon. I think that's kind of going to be what you're wanting to look for, unless maybe you want envious or 4th times for total damage, or just double damage perks with rampage because it'd be kind of funny. But I think this thing with incandescent and killing tally would be pretty awesome. Now, Mercury A is a longbow. It's like a legendary wish ender available from this portal activities. So doing any portal activity should get you a chance of getting the Mercury A. Now, this thing is over-penetrating, has a longer draw time than most other bows. However, it does get a unique perk here in Kinetic Tremors. The only other bow to get this is the one from Garden of Salvation, Accrued Redemption. So this is your accessible version. You do need to get a tier 2 to get it enhanced, which will proc K Tremors in 2 hits, which is why I've decided to pair that with Attrition Orbs, which should get you an orb every 5 hits or less. I don't know if this is post-buff numbers, so it might be a little bit less than 5. However, if it is even 5, 2 hits to proc and then 3 hits from K Tremors will get you an Attrition Orb pretty reliably. So that is a pretty good combo, I think. And then maybe if you don't like that, think about Successful Warm-Up or Rapid Hit to get you faster reload speed, Demo. Obviously, you're going to want to take stuff like Elastic String to make sure you're getting the fastest draw time you can, because this has a very, very long draw time. If you want a regular damage perk, High Ground is probably your best bet. You do have Honing here if you're going to be doing some mixed element stuff, and as a Kinetic, it will get a pretty good benefit from that. Now, another Pinnacle Ops weapon is going to be a Lionfish 4FR. It is a stasis rapid fire fusion rifle. And this is on here because if you don't have Riptide, or even if you do, you just want an updated weapon, this is your new slow king, right? Rapid fire fusions are very good for applying slow quickly, but they do not get the freeze quickly because you need 3 hits to proc it. Not a great ammo economy compared to something like Tenacious, so it does fall off there, but you do have the backup option of just having a fusion, which is pretty good damage for bosses and champions compared to rocket sidearms that are a bit better at dealing with those kind of majors. So I think you are looking for a chill clip here, and then you do get proximity power as a melee build. You can kind of do a bit of the melee, a bit of the freezing, so a good combo here that you can't get on Riptide. Then you do have Reconstruction and Lead from Gold here, which is the classic Riptide perk. If you do want to use this for damage, you have Reservoir Burst, you have Controlled Burst on with your Reconstruction option. I just think if you're going to get this, you want to use it for the slow and just replace your Riptide. From the new raid, I have the Combat Bow Heavy here, the crossbow. Opaque Hourglass. This is an arc crossbow weapon. The crossbows, you can go ahead and pick up the bolts after you fire them by holding E. So you have almost infinite ammo as long as you're able to keep picking these up. They have a variety of effects. You've got explosive bolts. You've got bolts that will stagger more. You have bolts that do damage over time. You have bolts that do damage when you pull them out. And there's bolts that just do more damage and drop off faster. So you have a variety of those to keep an eye out for. They all seem pretty decent. I'm a big fan of the Charge Bolt as a legendary damage over time option for things like Bolt Charge. And it has a couple of options here. It's not the best at single target damage. It's not awful. It's just not the best. You have to go pick up the bolts. It's pretty dangerous. So I wouldn't really focus on something like Firing Line as your option. But things like Master of Arms and Frenzy and Elemental Honing, where you're just kind of looking for a consistent damage boost against all targets, are nothing to scoff at. And since this is good at clearing adds and majors, being a basically infinite heavy weapon, something like Firefly and Dragonfly to give it some AoE to help it with the ad clear actually doesn't sound very bad. And I think something like Firefly Frenzy or Firefly Elemental Honing would be a good combo for an all-purpose version of this weapon. While Impulse Amplifier Frenzy is probably your best go-to for using it for heavy purposes. Rolling Storm rolls in the left column if you want something that gives you some bolt charge interaction, and you could roll that with something like Dragonfly for a little bit of AoE, better ad clear. So you can like kind of customize this pretty well. I think we're going to see better crossbows in the future. This seems like a very broad first attempt. There is a unique perk on here that is for this archetype exclusively, which is Bolt Scavenger, where picking up your bolts gives you better reload speed and improved handling. It is a pretty sizable chunk of reload speed, but going to pick up your bolts is dangerous sometimes, and it only gives you like 3 seconds per bolt. So not necessarily what I would recommend going for a consistency or damage option, while you have things like Field Prep and Firefly and Impulse Amplifier giving you more damage in some way. Final weapon from the raid is the new SMG. This is a 900 RPM adaptive SMG. It is arc, and it is the first gun to roll Rolling Storm Jolting Feedback together. If it was Rolling Storm Volt Shot, it might be a little bit better on the SMGs because they're a little bit faster at clearing adds. But even Jolting Feedback, you'll get it to proc pretty quickly. We're talking 17 hits, 13 if you're amplified. And in most content, if you're hitting body shots, you'll hit that on pretty much anything. So it is a pretty consistent way to get the jolt applied and then to also build in the bolt charge at the same time. This is what the combo they're going to be looking for on arc weapons going forward. So this is a great way to get ahead of that curve. As extra options, though, you do have Dragonfly in the left column. If you want a Dragonfly SMG, it did just get buffed to do a lot more damage. So something to try out is that, and then something like Jolting Feedback or Frenzy or Master of Arms, I believe. Now back to some portal weapons. We have the Ahab Char, which is a Solar 720 auto rifle. Great archetype. Love how this thing feels. Very, very good origin trait. You are able to get heal clip on this as a solar weapon, which I think is a great pick. It is competing with proximity power if you want to go for a melee build. But a 720 auto, I don't think is very melee build-esque. It's a bit harder to get a kill with this kind of primary versus something like a hand cannon. So I think heal clip's your go-to pick here. And then as an option, you don't get incandescent in this thing. You wouldn't have to go Burning Ambition to get any Solar 3.0 interaction with that. I don't think it's a bad pick, right? You are going to probably more consistently proc Burning Ambition on a auto rifle than a hand cannon. With a hand cannon, you'd probably kill them too fast. So this will be more reliable in getting that to proc. But otherwise, you're really looking at maybe Swashbuckler or Kill Clip, which are not the best damage perks in endgame. Kill Clip should be a little bit better because red bars have less health going into endgame content than they used to. You're probably going to get a bit more value out of that, but it's a hard sell. Whereas Burning Ambition does scale better the more HP enemies have. So I think it's a bit of a wash between killing red bars with Kill Clip or killing anything with Burning Ambition. I think Kill Clip's your must pick. It's not a perfect weapon, but it is, I think, a fun archetype. We don't get very many 720s these days, so this is a great pick. But talking about 720s, we also have the Kepler Destination 720, which is our first Kinetic that's like a new Kinetic 720 since like Steel Feather Repeater forever ago and Chroma Rush, way before even Witch Queen came out. So this thing has some pretty great rolls, actually. This is one of my first tier 4s that I actually got a legit drop of. So I have a tier 4 Giver's Blessing with Shoot to Loot Kinetic Tremors, and I think that thing is pretty awesome. Now, it does work really good with Tech Sec. I'm not really including the armor set bonuses in most of these because they are armor sets, and you can combine any armor set with any weapon if you really want to. But very specifically, I have been using this with Tech Sec for a set piece, so that when you break shields and you have bonus damage against shields with kinetic weapons, it also does a big shockwave, like a K-Tremor explosion, that blinds nearby enemies. You get a lot of explosions with this. K-Tremors on a primary, especially an auto rifle, is pretty fast to proc. Shoot to loot can proc with K Tremors, so if you kill something that makes a brick and it's going off, it will pick that up for you. One for All, I think, is also an amazing pick here, giving you 35% bonus damage for basically just shooting the auto rifle. If you're not a shoot to loot fan, just go ahead and take Rewind rounds or Demo or Impromptu Ammunition. I actually do like this. It does increase all of your progress. It's a multiplier for your abilities and everything else, so pretty good way to make up if you're lacking some of that ammo gen stat. But Rewind rounds is probably your next best for DPS, just K-Tremor and Rewind. Demos here if you want to build into Grenade, but I think Shoot to Loot K-Tremors is your best bet. Rewind rounds, K-Tremors being your next best. Finally, the last weapon on this list is going to be Prey A Syntax 4, former Nightfall weapon. This is now a Pinnacle Ops Solar Bow. It is a precision frame, so it's slow firing, but not the longbow-esque. And I don't think this thing is crazy good. I'm not a huge bow fan in endgame. However, if I was going to pick a bow, this is seeming pretty good. You do have the option of Incandescent and Burning Ambition together if you want to get Scorch on hit and on kill. However, I think you're probably better off just taking Incandescent Explosive Head. The damage buff is nothing to scoff at on any bow. And then Incandescent being paired with that gives you that full uptime of that Solar 2.0 synergy. Whereas Burning Ambition is about like 4 hits to proc on a bow with Enhanced. And it takes about 12 hits to do an ignition. So I don't feel like it's that good. If you need Scorch on every kill, maybe. But realistically, I think Incandescent Explosive is your best bet. Firefly could be fun with Explosive, but it's a precision bow. It's slow firing. These kind of on-hit perks just feel harder to maintain on this kind of weapon. Yeah, those are all the weapons I think are viable pickups, things that you kind of want to be looking for when you're looking through your portal and you're seeing what is dropping. Those are the things I would keep an eye out for to kind of go farm. And if you are into those mythic tier missions yet on Kepler, or you're getting into that tier 5 range, tier 4, tier 5s consistently, I think there are quite a few decent weapons from the destination, but also quite a few ones that are just bad. Like the Stasis Machine Gun is no better than any Stasis Machine Gun we've gotten before. So there's a couple that are washed. I think this is kind of the pain of being a destination weapon. But we did at least get a win with a Gape and with Giver's Blessing. I think both of those are very, very good weapons to go for. I do want to go ahead and talk about the exotic weapons and the exotic armor soon, but for today, just wanted to go ahead and talk about the legendary weapons that we've gotten to use. I've used everything on here pretty much except for the SMG from the raid, and then obviously the Arms Week weapons I haven't gotten my hands on yet. But everything else I have been able to go ahead, get a roll of, try out, and then looking through the perks today, just reconfirming what sounds good. I have a couple in here that I think are surprising things that I want to go for, like Rageous Fortune. I thought, well, I don't really care, but it is a solar heavy GL that we don't really have the options of. But I think it's something good to pick up. And then there are some interesting things that like have been held back on us. The crossbow was held back for a while. I think this rapid fire slug shotgun is being held back. The shotgun hand cannons were held back. And those are things I think would have been really good to have as destination weapons. They would have been really incentivizing people to really push those mythic missions early on. Would have loved to be able to try and farm some of these before the raid. They would have really changed up our gameplay, our builds in ways that the sandbox was already trying to do. So kind of sad they've been held back for the Arms Week events, but hopefully we get our hands on these soon. I think the hand cannons either next week or the week after. So definitely keep your eye out for when this comes in. It is going to be something that you want to pick up. It is going to be game changing. And with that said, I will see you all again very, very soon. I hope you enjoyed. Go ahead and subscribe. We're getting close to 1,000. I want to go ahead and try and hit 1,000 probably before winter. So I really appreciate it if you guys would go ahead and subscribe and watch the rest of our videos. But for the rest of the day, I hope you all have a great time, and I will see you all again very, very soon.